I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus, I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus, I was evil. I never shook, baby.
Oh, okay. We have fun. Let's get to business.
All right, yeah.
What's the bullshit we're talking about today?
Okay, so the writer's strike.
All right.
So that's been in the news for quite a while lately.
I have a feeling. Am I gonna not have solidarity forever at the end of this, or no?
Yeah, I think your predictions will come true. Here's the thing. So the writer's strike. I haven't paid much attention to the writer's strike, and it's funny because quite a few people have texted me like, "Oh, hey, so does this affect you?" It's like I'm not a screenwriter. I'm not a professional screenwriter. This doesn't really impact me. I haven't really.
Yeah.
But and I don't know like all the details, but after reading this article that I sent you in the Hollywood Reporter, a good chunk of the demands seem reasonable. And I do have a little bit of insight in terms of like how shitty the entertainment industry treats people who are not A-listers. Yeah, and it's crazy where it's like you would think that even if you worked more on the sort of technical side and you're kind of pretty low on the totem pole, that you would still probably make decent money. Whereas if you're doing craft services for a movie, you'd probably be making more than if you worked at a cafeteria and any other company. Which just being part of a film production is pretty. But it's like no, most people it's like they're very middle class. They make very middle class salaries, and that's only if, and even then you have to get a fair amount of work just to maintain like a 40 to 60 grand a year salary.
Right.
But
which in Southern California probably doesn't get you very far.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, the writer strike, a good chunk of their demands are actually pretty reasonable as far as I can tell.
Okay.
But of course, identity politics gets worked into it. So let's see, where's the part where so here's a TV writer. Her name's Kale Futterman. And she says, "We are sacrificing everything. Like a lot of other writers of color, I got stuck in the staff writer loop for a while. I was really excited about entering the next phase of my life, where I was hopefully not going to be freaked out about, can I pay my rent? Can I pay my bills? But here's another one. Writers from historically marginalized communities are the first ones who suffer when the belt tightens," explains Lisa Takuchi Cullen, vice president of the WGA East, and co-chair of its Committee for Inclusion and Equity. The problem, especially for lower level or emerging writers, is that many of them aren't able to get hired again. And one issue is that these mini rooms pay most writers the same, whether you're a 20-year veteran or a newbie, she says. So why hire a talented new writer from a marginalized community if I can get an old hand for the same money? Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how, like identity is so important in this part of the debate.
No, it's not, and it's dumb. So like I'm a big labor person and union person. So I really for me to turn on a union, I have to really, really dislike them and what they stand for. Example would be like the public schools and cities during COVID. Like I can't be with you on that shit. Like Chicago and stuff.
Yeah.
Just making kids suffer and people not wanting to do their jobs and just making shit up. So like this is one of those where, like you said, I have paid attention to this just because my general interest in strikes and labor relations, and they do sound reasonable, a lot of the concerns. And these are the kind of concerns when you start talking about like percentages of like colors and races and religions and that kind of shit that like just crack solidarity.
Yes.
And that's like the whole point of it is to like we're all on the same page because of what we do to feed our families and to pay our rent and our mortgages, and to like not about like, well, 26.6% of writers are BIPOC and less than 1% are Native Americans, which is what it says in this, which I think like less than 1% of people are Native Americans, like in the USA. So
yeah,
I mean that doesn't seem that crazy to me.
Right.
But this is like the dumbest shit. This is what tears people apart. This would get people to turn on each other. And it really, like, you just want to avoid this at all costs, because the in this case, like the studios, the studio heads, the streaming executives, like they love when you start carving up your own people, like you start carving up your base.
Right.
You lose strength that way, and it's really, really foolish.
Right. And here's the thing, like if there were actual discriminatory policies and practices in the entertainment industry, it's like, yeah, absolutely, rise up against that.
Yeah.
But it's like, and I'm sure that some discrimination happens, and of course that's fucked up. But it's like, unless like they were protesting like a specific rule or something that was holding back women or people of color or whatever, really, and they're just falling for the univariate fallacy, which is we're going to take one data point. People of color make up a smaller percentage in this industry, therefore racism. It's like, I'm pretty sure that there are a bunch of other reasons for why that happens. Like, why don't you look into that rather than simply saying?
But yeah, and I agree, of course, but like what they're saying, I don't understand what they want right here. Only 37% of TV writers in 2020 were Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Like, that's more than the percentage of Black, Indigenous, people of color in the U.S. Like, you were overrepresented already.
Right.
Like, by a lot.
Yeah.
Like, Black people make up like 13% of the country.
Yes.
Indigenous are like 1%.
Yeah.
POC, like, what does that, if you include Asians and Latinos and all of that, like, white people make up like over 70% of this country.
Yeah.
So right, like, you're already overly represented. So it's not even on itself, like, even facially, it's not a good argument.
Right.
And even if it was like, okay, 10% of writers of color, it's okay. Well, what are it's always like, well, only 20% of women are engineers. I'm just making something up. It's like, okay, what percent of applicants to these engineering programs are women? Like, what percent of like what? Yeah, there could be some what's the term? Dissuasion or whatever, like to keep people from it. But that's not really, like, now everything's open to everyone. Schools and industries like screenwriters, they are chomping at the bit for any way for them to check a box that says you are not like a straight white man. Like, they will find any way to do that. So it couldn't be easier, honestly, for like just not, I'm not saying it's easy to become a screenwriter at all, but your race and gender is not what's holding you back. If anything, that's giving you a leg up.
Yeah.
And so it's like facially, this is so. And is this the fucking Hollywood Reporter again?
Yeah.
God damn it! We read them so much because I hate, like, they're constantly just highlighting this dumb shit.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, am I being too paranoid here to think, like, what side are they on? This Hollywood publication.
Oh yeah, they're definitely on the woke side for sure. I mean, like, because
but I mean the striker side or the studio side.
Oh, gotcha. I'm assuming that it's on the strikers side.
Yeah.
Because you're right. We've referenced the Hollywood Reporter a lot, and one of the things that we talked about earlier this year was it was a luncheon, I think, for women or something, or some ridiculous, some stupid event. Yeah, in Beverly Hills, and then the Hollywood Reporter actually was one of the hosts for that event.
Yeah,
so
and that was the art. Yeah, we read an article. I mean, we read an article last week about it. We have another one this episode. It does provide us with a lot of content, but I mean, so yeah. Well, what are some of the good? Because I don't want to just shit on this strike. I do. I believe in the power of strikes, and I think they have a lot of reasonable demands. Right?
Yeah.
You know more details about that?
Let's see here.
I know, like, AI was one of them.
Yeah, AI. That's towards the bottom here.
And I think general, just like, I heard there's something called like micro rooms or small rooms, and basically it's kind of mini rooms.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what those are. Well,
what I heard is that they're like, I heard someone compare it to kind of like the gig economy of screenwriting.
Yeah.
I forget where I was listening to this, because this has been in and out of the discourse on a lot of the podcasts I listened to the past few weeks. And it's like the gig economy of screenwriting. There's not that, I think, like lots of industries, the old school view, at least like when I always thought of like a writer's room, right? Like SNL or Simpsons, or there's like a bunch of usually guys, like usually honestly like a bunch of white dudes, right? It's like the image I would think of, like hanging out in a room, like cracking jokes, writing things down, having a spark here, some kind of obvious and SNL, and they like doing a lot of coke, like used to be the thing. Like,
Yeah.
but just like, but it was familial and it was collaborative and it was like a unique kind of what now with the like like the stereotype of like a tech startup with like ping pong tables and a
Yeah.
beer keg and stuff, like honestly that, but before that,
Right.
like
Yeah.
like you're not in offices, you're in a room, you're talking, you're eating, you're joking around, you're throwing things at each other, you're farting, like, and I
Yeah.
understand how like that some of that did need to diversify, of course, but
Sure.
I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, like I don't think that's what happens as much anymore, where it's more just like hiring out. A lot of it I'm sure is probably remote.
Yeah.
Like these mini rooms are a lot more just like in and out. You don't have that connection to each other. It's honestly sounds like something that's ripe for AI takeover.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, seriously. And so I think one of the demands, one of the things that they were talking about here, is something that I largely agree with. Let's see, I just saw it. Oh yeah. So in the face of AMPTP, that's the what does AMPT stand for? It's the American something motion picture something. Anyway, it's some.
It's an acronym.
Yeah. They're the ones who the WGA is arguing with.
Okay.
And so the AMPTP rejected the WGA's proposal to regulate the use of artificial intelligence on NBA covered projects. The union is steadfast in its insistence that humans should be the ones to write those stories. So that I'm totally on the striker side with. I got a quote here from someone. AI is an existential threat to writers, and it is one of the main reasons that we strike. AI learns from the work that already exists. It is a plagiarism machine. So it's copying the work and learning from the creative work that's available and written by the class that was able to get movies and TV shows produced up until now. And they're not people who look like me. So it's like that, everything up until that last part, I was totally with her on. AI doesn't look like me. AI is not inclusive enough.
Who does AI look like? Like
I just imagine like Matrix, like, numbers, like binary code.
I can imagine, like, if AI was personified, if they just made it like a trans woman of color, like all these people would be fine with it.
I know, yeah.
They'd be like, no, this is equity.
I think we talked about this meme where it was like Republicans foreign policy, and it was like it was like bombing other countries, and then like Democrats foreign policy, and it's the exact same thing, but like it's just rainbows on the planes dropping bombs.
And Black Lives Matter. Oh, I like this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Stands for my values.
So it's like I agree with the sentiment, and so the quote continues. It takes a human mind. It takes personal lived experience to create true diversity in the work that we produce, and that is the great gift of diversity in our creative ranks, and why we need to continue to fight so hard for it. It's like, I agree with that. Just get rid of all the stupid woke buzzwords. Like, just focus on human ingenuity.
I love this part. Can I read a paragraph where it goes? Showrunners want to make better shows. They want to make shows that are representative of the world, but they're pulled in 20 directions. It's often the staff writer or the diverse lower level writer producer who has to say, wait a second, this character should be African American. This person should be an immigrant. This individual should be Latinx. They should be non-binary. I just picture some like this person just like a magician or like a wizard just like pointing the finger like that person turns black and that person turns non-binary. Yeah, just like pointing. It's like poof, like whoa, oh my god. And you're non-binary, and you're non-binary.
I know, I just wanted to do the Oprah thing.
And you're non-binary. That's why I'm Oprah.
But again, this is the exact same scenario where it's like, I agree that showrunners should not be given that much. They should have to have that like writers' responsibilities while the show is being shot. They should have a couple of writers on the set saying, "Hey, we need to rewrite this scene." Like, the showrunner already has
something. I don't know what a showrunner is.
Neither do I, actually.
No one actually knows. No one actually knows what a showrunner does.
I know. I bet you. I wondered, because I wonder if it's like producer, where it's like, showrunner, the person who has overall creative authority and management responsibility for a television program. Yeah, but that's like what do you?
Like, is that not a director?
I guess not. A showrunner is the top-level executive producer of a television series production who outranks other creative personnel, including episode directors, in contrast to feature films in which the director has creative control over the production.
Okay, yeah. I'm just thinking like movies. So a
Um,
showrunner is, yeah, they're like a little dictator on the set.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But also just like, oh, like I have creative control over everything. It's like, oh, that's still kind of nebulous to me. It's still kind of like,
Yeah.
still kind of all over the place. But yeah, I again, like I agree with the idea that there should be a couple of screenwriters, writers on set for last minute revisions and things. But then again, like towards the end of that paragraph, and it starts like, yeah, but we need more. And we need a person who's saying this person should be black and this person should be non-binary. But it's like, okay,
I just imagine they like wheel in some like sage person like sitting cross-legged and like eyes closed and a bunch of like tattoos on them and long hair, and they're just like, this person should be African American, and they like pull them away, and then they pull someone else in front of them, and they're like, what should this person be? It's like, this person should be Latinx. Like that's just gonna be what DEI coordinators turn into.
Yeah, just this, like a kombucha swilling.
Yeah,
say millennial sages. Oh man,
millennials ruin everything.
I know.
Are we the worst generation?
Yeah,
I don't know. Boomers are pretty bad too.
They're pretty bad, but I mean, I feel like they're at least a little more emotionally resilient than
millennials are pretty bad.
Yeah.
I like Gen X. I think Gen X might be my favorite generation.
I relate so much better to Gen Xers, like people in their 40s and 50s. I get along with them so much better than stupid millennials.
Yeah, maybe we should just identify as Gen X.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's identify as a different generation. I love that tweet that was like, say what you want about Gen X, but we were kind of right about everything. I don't know. I'm sure they're fine. I defend millennials too. I defend us. I think we got screwed in a lot of ways.
We did.
Like
by boomers too.
As a generation. Yeah, by boomers. Boomers, shut up. They have it so good. Yeah. Comparatively. In many ways. In other ways, they got screwed. But I don't know. Millennials are really, really fucking annoying as a generation.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm more of an enigma. I don't really fit in any generation.
Yeah.
We're kind of doing that thing though that I make fun of where it's like, I was born in the wrong decade. It's like, no, you weren't. You'd be boring back then too.
Oh man.
All right. Are we done with this shit?
Yeah.
I will say I don't think I think that was a very, very small slice of the strike. Like I really have not heard, like I don't think identity politics is a big part of the strike at all.
I agree. Like that's the first I've heard of this, and this has been going on for a while. So I'm sure that somebody at the Hollywood Reporter is some stupid millennial or a Gen Z type, and it's like, oh, how about we shine a spotlight on the people of color, the writers of color aspect of this. So
I'm sure it's not like I really don't think that's one of the main demands, because I think like, again, people would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like we go above and beyond to hire women and racial minorities and stuff. Like it's you're barking up the wrong tree here.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, a note on the actual labor side. My I know someone who works in the industry, and his union, even though he's not a writer, but his union is going on strike with in solidarity with the writers and with the WGA. So it's been kind of messing up with his work a little bit, and he very begrudgingly took a job for a reality show. So a reality show that he's worked on before, but they're paying him less this time around. And there aren't quite as many perks, but he's just sort of like, work is dried up right now, so I need to take what I can. He goes, and it's stupid because usually when you get a job on a show, and as long as you do a pretty decent job, and then they call you back, usually at the very least you get paid the same, but most of the time you get like an 8% increase or something like that. And he goes, but now they're paying me less than they were last year, and inflation is worse, so it's like I'm getting really fucked here. But it's like,
is it a friend of yours?
Yeah. So it is sort of like, Hollywood is pretty shitty to the lower level people, even on a major show, on a major production.
They probably know that, like, what else are you going to do?
Exactly.
Like, you're on strike. Like,
well, Yeah, I mean, and just like the inconsistency of pay, like sometimes you get an amazing. So like it's like, oh yeah, I spent 4 weeks on a show and I made 10 grand, but then you go 2 months without any work, and it's like, well, that's not 10 grand a month, that's 10 grand over 3 months, and that's that. So
right.
that
Yeah,
but
man, I couldn't do it. I don't know how you guys do it.
yeah,
Like I need the consistency, and then my art is on top of that.
yeah.
Like I couldn't live that way.
Yeah, you just weren't built for it, I guess.
I wasn't.
You're
I
a
know.
millennial.
No, I know. I know one of my brother's best friends is a like graphic design guy, and he does like really. He did like really. I won't say what, just in case. Well, that doesn't matter. He would work on like the Geico Gecko, for instance, and like make like big money and do very successful. But sometimes if you're not working, then like you don't have anything coming in. I don't know. That's just not how I could operate.
Yeah. You're just a wuss.
Basically.
No, well, I mean, I think it's kind of part and parcel with it. It's there's this great quote from Ray Bradbury. It's like real risk means jumping off a cliff and building your wings on the way down. So
yeah, you also fucking kill yourself that way.
I know, exactly. Yeah. All right, so should we move on to?
It's worked for me. This works for me.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
You also live in Jersey, though, so.
So what's that mean?
I know. You want to talk Latinx, Latinx?
Of course, I always do. I never want this topic to die. A fiery death.
So
look at all these Latinxes.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm not. Yeah, I if it was possible to take that term Latinx and like take it behind the barn and put a bullet in the back of its head, I would so do it. Like just put it out of everyone's misery. It's so stupid. But of course this happened in Beverly Hills. So again, the Hollywood Reporter. Latinx creatives gathered around sopes and mezcal at Cantina Frida in Beverly Hills on Monday afternoon for a conversation around community and representation in Hollywood. The fact that this room exists now is so enormous, said writer and producer Gloria Calderon-Kellett, who created the Prime Video series With Love. We've got to talk about the trauma and we've got to talk about the wins. This room did not exist when I started here, where we could come together and just gather and celebrate. So give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah, it always just cracks me up. Like it's like the wealthiest, most privileged people who use the term Latinx.
Yeah, extremely. Like, want to talk about fucking trauma? Like, go to some other parts of your own city that are not Beverly Hills, and like some of those Latinxes are living in like real fucking trauma. Like they're living real trauma and squalor and busting their ass and cleaning bathrooms and cooking in sauna level kitchens, and like you're there in is this in the hotel or is this somewhere else?
It's a restaurant, but it is in Beverly Hills though.
Like at a Beverly Hills restaurant talking about trauma because there wasn't a room for it honestly it almost, again, like I say this all the time since the articles, it's like it almost feels like satire. Yes,
absolutely, man. Interesting. The speakers, they were all like A-listers. They were all like, or maybe not necessarily A-listers. I know it's got Diego Luna, but it's also it's just high-ranking people in Hollywood. Like these are all producers and screenwriters and showrunners. And it's like, why don't you go, talk at a small, impoverished school in East LA and like host and raise money for it. Like, why are you guys gathering together in Beverly Hills to like, the industry, we're all suffering. It's like if you're suffering in Beverly Hills, it's not suffering.
Yeah, like they're talking about being nominated for an Emmy, and like I don't know, man. So well, I mean, you take the lead on this. These are your people. So
yeah. The Latinxes,
yeah.
There's a part I wanted to comment on.
What is Ex Mayo? What is that?
Ex Mayo is the name of a person.
God damn it.
She's a comedian.
Ex Mayo?
Yeah. Let me see if that's her real name, though.
I don't think so.
It just, I don't see anything saying like a real name, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. Maybe that's That is her real name.
Her name is X Mayo.
Yeah. And look at the size of her. That's mean spirited, but I mean, her last name's Mayo. It's like it fits.
Oh my god! All right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Here's the part I want to shine a spotlight on. So this is a quote from someone. I think this is from X Mail. I'm of the mindset that I want to continue to do as Gloria has done and climb the ladder and gain a position of power, so I can make my own ecosystem. I'm not trying to change Hollywood. Hollywood has no interest in changing because if they did, white people would give up their power. Latinos, we have positions, we do not have power. So if they have no interest in giving it up, fine. I'll make my own studio. I'll do my own shit. So on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, cool. Like get out of the system and go do your own shit.
I love that. Make your own studio. That's what they always say to people who complain about having to get like great. And if it's successful, then more power to you. But it's not going to be successful because people don't like this shit. And not just like white people. Like people don't like. And like that's why they canceled all these shows and movies and things on Netflix and these other series. Like they don't want to just be hounded with identity politics stuff all the time.
Right.
Like if it's part of a good story, that's fine. But that's not like people don't tune in for that. They don't want that. They want to be entertained. They want to feel drama and emotion and laugh and cry and all that shit. And like you're not going to get that by just pontificating about, a certain group.
Yes.
And speaking truth to power, like that's not like no people don't like that. They don't like to be talked down to.
Right.
So I don't know who you're kidding, like why you think that's gonna happen.
No, absolutely. And also it's just that entitled mindset. I'm not trying to change Hollywood. Hollywood has no interest in changing because if they did, white people would give up power. It's like nobody owes you anything. Like, I mean, like if you want to talk about like the corrupt nature of Hollywood and nepotism, I'm totally on your side on that. But if it's just white people are refuse to give up their power, like
what does that mean? Like retire, like give up their job? What do you? I know, like what are you even talking about? Like give up power? Like you mean maybe what they built? Like just give it up because you decide, like like that's not how anything fucking works. And if your studio that you create and you become sick, and in 30 years someone else comes along and says, well, it's time to give up power because our group isn't representative, like you're just going to give it up, you're just going to give it over when they haven't worked for it at all. Like no, that's not how anything works. And it's this very common it's this like thread that runs through this identity politics, progressive thinking. It's just like, well, it's our turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Give it to us now. It's like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Why would anyone do that? Now, I want to take a step like to go in a totally different area. I do think like elected leaders who can't govern anymore, like Dianne Feinstein, California, for the win there. Like she should give up power now. She's 90 years old. She can't do her job. Like that's different. If you can't do the job anymore and you have like corruption that keeps you like the Democrats tried to primary her and basically Obama and Nancy Pelosi came into her rescue, and like that's different. Yes, you should give up power then and then go retire with your $200 million to Napa, right? That's different than just like, okay, studio exec who built this studio or worked his way up or whatever it was, or she, impressed people, now she's CEO, like time to give it up. Don't worry about like paying for shit that you have or supporting your kids. Like nope, got to give up that power. Like no. It's such a weird thing to me that's just how like an honest to God contingent of people believe this as in like society should work. It's the equity mindset. It's insane.
It absolutely is. And like they don't really mention things like talent or vision or originality in this thing. It's simply we're Latinx, we're Latinos, we're people of color, therefore we deserve more. And it's like that that makes you guys look so bad, or that makes us look so bad. It's just like
and honestly, like I don't mean to generalize an entire group of people here who are like very diverse within the Latino name, but like that's not how these people work.
Yeah.
Like these are the most hard, like these are the hardest working people in this country. And I find that so like that's not representative at all of like the quote unquote Latino mindset.
Right.
Like they build our buildings, they cook our food, they pick our crops, they paint our house, like they do all this shit. Again, this is a part of it, you know, very wealthy Latinos too down in South Beach who are, you know, running, like, making financial crimes and shit like that too, of course. But like in general, you go in any kitchen in New York City or LA or something, like probably 80 to 100% of the chefs are of some sort of Latino. Like from all over, which is a big broad term. Like I don't think if you went on the street and you start asking people kind of like, well, what do you think about us giving it? They'd be like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like it's kind of like when a lot of like right wingers around Cinco de Mayo, they like put on a sombrero and a poncho and like walk around, and like all the white college kids will be offended, and then they'll go up to Mexican guys and they'll be like, do you find this offensive? They're like, no,
you look good.
I love it. Like, do you want a beer? Like, no, what are you talking? Like, no, I don't find it offensive. Like, it's kind of, it reminds me kind of that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, like if I was the parent of any of these people, because I'm sure most of them probably came from, you know, like middle or working class, you know, backgrounds. It's like if I was a parent, it's like why are you lecturing why are you demanding more from while you're hanging out in a nice restaurant in Beverly Hills? Why are you just expecting people to give you stuff?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
we raised you better than that.
There's this great episode. Again, I'm just talking with the mindset here. There's this great episode of Blocked and Reported that did, like, this happened in Philly, and it was like this. I think she was Korean or like Asian woman. It might have been an immigrant who basically like invested in a coffee shop for her daughter and like daughter's partner. I can't remember if it was gay or whatever. Like I don't just like to like start a business, learn how to run all that, and like then some like black trans worker formed some group, and they like tried to force her to give up her investment and give up, like not give up the investment, like let them take over and call the shots and run everything, because some young black kids came in and stole some money from out of the tip jar and they chase after them, and of course like they were considered the villains, and like it turned this whole racial reckoning thing.
Jesus
Christ. It was nuts. And it's that mindset of like, no, this is ours now because we're owed this. And to the woman's credit, she was like, all right, fine, I'll sell the building. like I'm just selling it. Like I don't give a shit. Like I did this for my daughter, and of course the daughter, you know, they're making statements about their inherent racism and all this shit and anti-black violence or what. I'm just glossing over. This was like last year. Really good episode. But again, it's that same thing. It's like this is ours now because we decided it's ours now. It's honestly like very colonialist, like very imperialist, very much like Columbus. It's like we live here now.
Exactly.
This now belongs to me. And it's mine.
God, I mean, it's the amount of money that went into this stupid Latinx thing. It's like that could have gone to a school, and that could have gone a scholarship to help, you know, underserved communities or whatever.
I do want to say about the Latinx thing. I think here though, if you look at this article, I might be wrong. If you look at the quotes, they actually don't use Latinx. Like to the people's credit in the article, I think they use Latino and Latina. It's the writer who, when writing the prose, uses Latinx. I think.
Yeah.
So that's like a Hollywood Reporter thing. Again, super gay, but I don't think any of the quotes actually say like even Ex-Mayo, who identifies as Afro-Latina.
Yeah.
And these Latinos, like, so I don't know necessarily. I don't think they got together here. Well, actually, Latinx Creatives Empowerment Lunch. I don't know if that's what it actually is called or if that's anyway, I do want to make that note to give them maybe some credit.
Right. Then again, you know, this is we only got a few you know, snippets of a few quotes here, but I mean, to be fair, like it wasn't so much. It's not like Diego Luna was saying, I'm Latinx too. And
how could you be like, how could you have like Mexican ancestry or Colombian or something and like call yourself Latinx? Like, how could you do that? I just like couldn't imagine. And I think the answer is not many of them do.
Right. Yeah.
Like, first of all, they want to be called, they don't want to be lumped together.
Yeah.
And then it's like, when they do, it's like, oh, broadly, just like it's broadly white, it's
Right.
broadly Latino. Some still use Hispanic,
Yeah.
which I think is technically different. I don't like Hispanic, but like how could you I think I've only seen once ever an actual Latina person wearing a shirt that said like Latinx something and like being totally sincere, and that's what they, and of course she was like a law student at one of the top ranked and expensive law schools in the country, right? This wasn't someone who was working in the kitchen or
Yeah.
or even working like an office job, a middle class office job. This was like
Right.
a very expensive law school, but still, like I don't think it's very common.
Right. No, it's not at all.
Do you ever hear people like say that genuinely?
So far, surprisingly, no. I have not heard anybody in LA or anyone in my life ever use the term like in a sincere way. All of my Mexican friends and family members, like whenever I brought that up, they all roll their eyes at the term, like, oh, that's so dumb. Like, I can't believe like that's.
Did they
like,
know it, or were you introducing it to them?
They know they'd heard it, but again, mostly I think mostly just from online crap.
Yeah. Yeah. Sally called me Latinx at work. Sally's also a dumb bitch.
Oh man.
All right,
yeah.
that's enough. We can't focus too much on Latinos on this episode. We'll start, give people the wrong impression.
I'm fine with it.
I know you are. I know that, Jose.
Oh man. Oh, speaking of Jose, real quick. So you remember you've seen Goodfellas, right?
Of course.
Do you remember the scene at the wedding when was it Karen, Henry Hill's wife?
Mm-hmm.
She is at the wedding reception, and Paulie's showing him around, and there's a voiceover narration, and she's saying that like she like almost like all the men were named either Paulie or Michael. Like that was just like very, and so when I visited my family in Texas, like most of the men were named Jose, and most or variations of it, and most of the women were named Maria or variations of it. Like,
yeah, it's the same thing in my big fat Greek wedding. It's like all the men are Nick from Nikos, and all the women are Marie.
Yeah. Oh.
Yep.
But yeah. Oh, we gotta talk. Cleopatra, our new recurring segment.
Yeah, 3 episodes in a row, baby. That's yeah, definitely.
Oh man,
because she's getting toasted.
Yeah. So this is in Bounding into Comics. So on IMDb, the series has an atrocious 1.1 out of 10 from 42,000 users, and the vast majority, 94.5%, are giving the series the lowest possible score, a 1 out of 10. That's crazy. And only 0.9% gave it 10 out of 10.
Wait, hold on. That's the Rotten Tomatoes. What's it called? Queen Cleopatra?
No, this is IMDb.
IMDb, yeah. IMDb is. Yeah, I like Rotten Tomatoes. I like that. That's what I use. And oh boy, oh my god.
Oh, don't tell me. I'm gonna look it up. I got it. Oh wait, that's the original. Hold on Cleopatra. Oh, Queen Cleopatra here.
Oh my god, it's even worse for the audience score.
Oh shit!
Wow. So it's a 10% for but that's only 10 reviews. But you would think it would be very high solely for identity reasons.
And these are top critics too.
Yeah.
Or not all of them, but a good chunk of them.
Recognized here? Andy Brody. No.
Oh, these are all from the UK. So the actress they got, the black actress they got to play Cleopatra, she's British.
Yeah.
So even on her home turf, they're railing her.
I'm looking here at these are top critics. Man, it is getting fucking roasted. Oh yeah, it's a 2%.
Audience score, 5,000 ratings.
5,000 ratings. I don't know if it got ratings bomb, which I think sucks. Like if it did, that's not because I'd like to know authentically if it's shitty.
Right.
But I mean, even looking at just like the super reviewers, it's a lot of half stars.
Yeah.
A few 5s, but a lot of 1s and half stars.
I wonder if it would have fared better if it would have fared better if they just didn't make such a big. If the creators of the show just didn't make a big deal out of, like, look at us, we're putting up, we're being political by putting a black actress.
Did they do that first, or were they responding to the criticism of it being a black actress?
I
don't know.
Good question. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think them, regardless, they definitely doubled down.
Yeah.
And like we said, not the last 2 episodes, because there's an episode in between with just me and Anthony, but the whole like they didn't say this is artistic, like this is just our vision. They gave many really dumb reasons that really made it hard to root for them, because I generally don't want things to fail. Like, a lot of people work on this stuff. Like a lot of people who aren't like making the really dumb comments to the press, and they got paid for it. I don't know, but this was like I wanted this to suck. Yeah.
Well, it does bother me that when we read the thing from the director, and she was talking about her explicitly political motives, behind the series, that bothered, like, to me, that's just bad leadership in many ways. It's just kind of like, this is a controversial topic, so that anybody who's worked on the show, and if the show fails, it's going to be harder for them to find work later on. If like, oh, you guys worked on that Cleopatra show, ugh, that got terrible ratings, and
you should be beaten with a hose.
But to me, like, that's just like, just stay out of it and just focus on the creative side of it, and accentuate how talented your cast and crew are, and instead of highlighting your own political reasonings for the show. It just seems really dumb.
Wait, okay, so hold on. So so this article is interesting because it's not just about like, okay, she's black. Like we did that like to death, and we know how stupid it is. And her excuses were not only like politically dumb, like they were downright like honestly kind of racist and
self-contradictory too.
Self-contradictory and like colonialist and all those reasons. Listen to our last episode to hear more about that. But this is interesting. It goes, one user wrote, "It is hard to take this documentary seriously when there are errors in just about every scene. Ancient Egypt existed for 3.5 millennia, and the Ptolemaic period of Greek control and its involvement in Roman policies, especially the Roman civil wars, is a very specific period. For example, no Egyptian was spoken at the court, Greek was spoken. Getting costumes wrong, basic timelines, like battles like the Battle of Actium wrong, placing Cleopatra at events we know she was not present at, mixing up things done by Anthony and those done by Octavian, and an unending series of errors just makes this impossible to watch. It is clear no experts or even anyone with basic knowledge of the history of the time and place was involved, or if they were, their advice was inverted. The dialogue's also highly laughably childish, as is the acting."
Oh yeah. It just seems like everything about it is really
Hold on, this line is great. Sorry. What's next? A Bruce Lee documentary with a non-Chinese actor, or Mandela with a white or Asian actor could be the next politically correct idea of Netflix producers.
But I hope that this is something that well, here's the thing. I mean, like the show is failing amongst critics and audiences, and I'm sure this will not be the last time we talk about this. I'm sure that the director will come out and be like, "Oh, it was toxic fandom." That
racism.
It was racism that made the show fail. It wasn't.
Or no, it can't be. It's when it's non-white people saying it. It's inherent racism.
Yeah.
Or implicit racism, because you can't just say, "Oh, they're being racist," because that would cause so many problems. It's implicit racism.
Yeah. Everything's just toxic. It's all toxic. Wow.
Fandom. Actually, it went down because they then have the tomato. They have the tomato score down lower in the article, where it's 11% and 2%.
Oh,
it's already dropped to 10% and 2%. Right?
Yeah,
dude, that is so fucking low.
Yeah,
like, that is really, really low.
Yeah.
Oof.
And I like how critics and audiences are both like they're both like, yeah, there's no way we can defend this. Like,
there's no fluidity to the scenes at all. Poorly done. This could have been great, but I do not know who made this, but they should be fired. Yeah, and I like that it's not just based on, like, everyone just like Cleopatra wasn't black. Cleopatra wasn't black. 1 star. Like, no, they're actually like making like substantial arguments about like acting and dialogue and other historical accuracy. It's not like they nailed everything else and just made Cleopatra black. Like they like mixed up characters. I mean, I do the whole thing like, well, she wasn't at some event. I mean, okay, but it's a show about her, and there's always going to be like some creative license there to like
Sure.
condense things to make things, you know, like make it more of a story, whatever. But like I feel like there's confused like historical figures with each other.
Yes. There's a good quote here. This is from a commenter on IMDb, I believe. The sad thing is that they're calling this a documentary style series. It's an insult to Egypt and any historian. I feel this is a disgrace to Cleopatra and her name. It's a shame because this garbage will probably confuse so many people who watch it and believe it. It's incredibly unjust to take a historical figure and change them to fit your narrative. It's like, yeah, I mean, and you kind of get back to the self-contradictory thing of that director's article in Variety, where she said, you know, on the one hand, she's relying on history, and it's like, okay, first off, no, you're not. But then on the other hand, she said that she wants to update Cleopatra. So it's like, which is, are you taking a more modern approach to it, or are you sticking to what actually happened?
Yeah, she's just throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah,
and seeing what sticks.
This will probably do more to hurt, anybody's interest in wanting to explore, true Egyptian history.
Maybe you should focus more on like historical accuracy and dialogue and costumes instead of just like smelling your own farts that you like change the gradient of a historical figure.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sure this won't be the last time we talked about Cleopatra.
All right, and now we got Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Let's end with Mr. Hanks.
Yeah,
and this surprised me, to be honest.
Yeah, and this is at least something a little positive. So I don't think we covered this specific case. We've covered several other cases of older books being edited and neutered for a modern progressive audience. So another one was P.G. Wodehouse's works. So this is back in April. The Telegraph reported back in April that Penguin Random House edited a number of P.G. Wodehouse's works because they deemed the prose unacceptable. Not only did they edit his works, but they also added trigger warnings at the beginning of his books. The Telegraph reports one of the warnings for Thank You, Jeeves reads, "Please be aware that this book was published in the 1930s and contains language, themes, and characterizations which you may find outdated." But Tom Hanks has actually spoken out against this. He reacted to this, telling to this trend, telling to the BBC, "I'm of the opinion that we're all grown-ups here. Let's have faith in our own sensibilities as opposed to having somebody else decide what we may or may not be offended by." He added, "Let me decide what I am offended by and what I'm not offended by. I would be against reading any book from any era that says abridged due to modern sensitivities."
Good for him.
Yeah.
Like, is Tom Hanks entering his grumpy old man phase?
Probably.
I'm here for it because Tom Hanks is like as establishment as it gets.
Yeah.
He's been very like just kind of the darling of, I mean, I think they call him like America's dad.
Yeah.
Like just very, I wouldn't think he would say or do anything to tarnish that reputation.
Right.
And like he didn't have to come out and say anything about this. Like he's Tom Hanks. He's fine. And I appreciate when people in positions like that, like J.K. Rowling and people who like have everything still make a stand for something important when they don't have to.
Yeah.
I think this is pretty tame compared to a lot of other things he could speak out about, but it seems authentic and very agreeable. Like why, we talk about that all the time. Why? Who needs this? Like no one needs this. It's a book, like it's a novel,
right?
People can understand that language has changed over time and people used to speak differently at different eras, and like just because you're publishing a novel, like you're not condoning everything that's in every book. It's a fucking story,
right? Exactly.
Like I don't know, I always wonder, it's like, who is this for? Like this trigger warning, like who needs this? Who honestly needs this? Who like genuinely is going to be harmed somehow by picking a book from 1930s and having words in there that are not acceptable today, and like suffering anything whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people who need therapy are the ones
And if
who.
you're one of those people, like maybe maybe this life is, you're not cut out for it.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm not telling you to go kill yourself. I would never say that,
Right.
but life is going to be very difficult for you
Yes.
if that's going to cause you that much stress.
Yeah, it's an odd thing because no matter who you are, you're going to be, you're going to encounter people who are going to say and do mean things to you at some point in your life. So, like, baby proofing a set of, literary works from the 1930s, that's not going to make people's lives much easier. Like, that's not like.
I also think it's like, the counter to what I'm saying might be like, well, what's the harm in changing it, right? If it could harm anyone, like we say that it does harm people, well, my response to that would be, I think the scales are outweighed on the historical accuracy of that time. Like,
Yeah.
if the story was written in the 1930s, maybe it takes place in the 1930s. That's how people spoke. Like, that's so there's the historical type of accuracy to it, right?
Yes.
Which is important. Like, it would be weird if I'm reading a book in the 1930s and one of the kids goes like, "My bad, fam." Like, so there's that, and it's also like the writer's intent and like the authenticity of the writer.
Yeah.
Like of Roald Dahl, of what was his name, Wodehouse. I'm actually
P.G. Wodehouse.
Yeah, I'm actually. What has he written that's real famous?
I don't know. I've heard the name so many times, but I can't think.
I'm not really familiar with him, to be honest. But like, I know they talk about Roald Dahl in here, of course, which we've talked about. It's
Ian
like
Fleming.
Yeah, it's like I think it's way more important, especially these writers who are passed away, like how they wrote the book. That's very important.
Yeah.
Like keeping that, I think, far outweighs the changing sensibilities of readers now.
Yes.
Like, I don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, a great way to learn about. So for example, like, when I read To Kill a Mockingbird in middle school, like, we had a discussion about, like, this is how, unfortunately, these are some of the attitudes that were held that were much more prevalent in the 1950s and 60s. So it served as like a launching pad for a broader discussion, a more good informative discussion about racism in America. And I think you could use a similar argument for writers of the past, where it's like, we revere these these writers, and their works are important today. They had some views that don't hold up really well today, but that's okay because they're dead, and
and in books like To Kill a Mockingbird, like, it's very important that certain words are included in that to like show the evilness of some of the villains. Like, we definitely read Mockingbird, but I don't remember reading it in high school, but we definitely did.
Yeah.
I do remember us all reading Huckleberry Finn, and it was like not even which is littered with the N-word.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, some people were uncomfortable saying it, but it was not even close to, like, the teacher. And I went to a very liberal school. Like, the teacher it wasn't even a conversation of like, oh no, we're not going to read it. We're not going to we're definitely reading all of the words.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're reading something. You're not turning to someone next to you and calling them that.
Yeah.
Like, that's what the book is. This is American lit.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. And I'm pretty sure it's not how it works anymore. I would think if one student had an issue with it and caused a stink, like, school boards now or like principals and these administrators and teachers are so spineless that they would cave. Like, I honestly don't know.
They would shut down for a week and be like, we're going to reconvene to discuss the incident.
Hall. Yeah. How is this hard?
How we can do better?
Then what's our role in white supremacy?
Not just as teachers, but as activists.
Yeah. Are we ready to listen?
I'm 90% sure, if I remember correctly, that when we were reading sections of it in class, and this, I was like in 7th or 8th grade when we read it. I think the teacher even said, you can say the N-word out loud when we're reading this, but we all know that this is not a word that you should go around just casually saying, but understand that it's part of the text.
Yeah, man.
And we were all old enough to okay, when it's in this context, it's fine, but don't use it in casual
And what's crazy is like we grew up, we're almost the same age.
Yeah.
You grew up in the Bay Area of California. I grew up in Northeast New Jersey. Like these are very liberal areas.
Right.
Like overwhelming. Even then, I think my area has become more blue. Like even then, I think like the last elections I paid attention to, I'm pretty like Obama won by a lot. I know that, but he won by a lot of places. I don't know if before that. I don't know last time my town was red. But like think about like these are now places that like I don't know. I honestly would love to see if my high school still read these books.
Yeah,
like I'm very curious. Did you? So were there black kids in your class?
There was at least one that I remember.
Yeah. Well, where you grew up, what were the demographics like? What was your high school like?
It's actually pretty diverse. A fair amount of Mexicans for sure, but there was also a good amount of whites. Yeah. And also just the Bay Area. It's very Latino.
Is it very Asian? Like a lot of Asian in the Bay Area?
Yeah, there is, and we had a lot of Muslims. A lot of Middle Eastern kids. So it's actually really ethnically diverse, actually, which is maybe probably why like so much of this diversity crap like bothers me. It's like, yeah, we were able to like we all got along fine.
Yeah, man. Like I think about that a lot. I honestly think a lot about that because I get very, even though I don't have children right now, like I get very concerned with what we're doing to kids in this country with this shit. And like I remember growing up, race was like I grew up in a very mix of like rich and upper middle class and some middle, like I wouldn't say very many like lower middle class kids. There were some, but like middle class, super wealthy, right? But we were not. It was not all white. Like it was actually. So one, they're white, of course, like very Jewish, and also like some like there were Pakistanis, there were Chinese, there were Eastern Europeans. We had kids in our ESL program who like only spoke Lithuanian and Ukrainian and Russians and like. But like one of my best friends was Pakistani, and like I didn't see him any differently. Like I didn't think we were a different, like that didn't even occur to me that we were different racially, like at all. I know we were different, that he was much wealthier than I was.
Right.
He was an extremely rich kid, and I loved going to his house because they had like suits of armor and like swords on the walls and shit, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
But like I don't ever remember, and like Chinese kids and Indian kids, and like I never thought of them being like racially different really at all. Like maybe if they didn't speak the language as well, that was a big signifier, but like just terms of race, like no, not at all. Like it wasn't even a thing. And I think the whole consciousness about race shit is like makes it so much worse for kids.
Yeah.
Like there was that story that people love to quote where is these two little boys wanted to get the same haircut, so their teacher couldn't tell them apart, but one was white and one was black, and like they didn't see that. Like they just thought, oh, if we get the same haircut, we'll be identical. And it's like I think there's something pure and beautiful about that. And like by making the white kid stand up in class because he's an oppressor, and the black kid say like that's gonna ruin that friendship.
Yeah.
And that's like that should be fucking criminal. Like to do that kind of shit to children. And no,
it's extremely manipulative. And like like you said, like it just happened naturally. Like it never seemed like, oh, like these are my Asian friends, and then these are my black friends, and these are my white friends. It was like, no, we were all just friends. Like it just never. And when we did learn about like slavery or Jim Crow and stuff like that, it's like it was like, yeah, that stuff was terrible, but good thing that happened a long time ago. Good thing it's not happening today. Like it's like genuine true racism was a thing of the past.
Definitely. Like it honestly felt, and it's not to like belittle actual racism that does occur. I think it's really dumb when we say like when people are like, oh, progress hasn't been made. Like, what are you talking about? It is like the progress that we've made in this country is a testament to our country. Like how amazing that is. How within this short amount of time we went from slavery to Jim Crow to civil right to like electing a black president. Like that's unbelievable. That's an amazing thing. And to have like I don't know, diverse neighborhoods and diverse friends and all and intermarriage, like that used to be illegal. For you to marry someone of a different race, and now it's like totally normal.
Right.
Like to say we haven't made progress is an insane thing to say and ahistorical.
Did you do you follow Sarah Hayter and
I do.
Megan Dom? So they have a podcast called, I think it only came out recently. I think it's called A Special Place in Hell or something, and it's very culture war oriented. But they had who's that chick? She ran for like Congress in Colorado. I think Syra Rao. Like all she does is just rip on white people on Twitter.
Oh yeah, she ran for Congress.
Congress or somebody. She ran for some big political position. She blocked me on Twitter a while back, but so
I thought she was fake.
I thought so too, but she appeared on this podcast like in person. And so
Really?
her and some other woman. And so they're the ones who started that thing. It's called Race to Dinner, where they invite us to your house for like $2,000 or something or some shit. Yeah, and we'll lecture you, and make you cry, and all this shit. So these two women who founded that stupid racist dinner thing, and like it's unbelievably racist. But like they went on Sarah Hater's and Megan Dom's podcast, and hats off to Hater and Dom for just being so composed during this thing. But like it was just the stupidity of them. And so one of the things that they were saying was that things had not changed for blacks since they first came here in 1619 or whatever. And then like, what are you talking about? Like, like you can see like, and so what the woman's what her argument was, that even though we don't have like lynchings where we're hanging blacks in the streets anymore, she goes, but police violence, that like black people are still being indiscriminately killed, and it's like that's not really shown.
And how many of those police are black?
Exactly, yeah.
Like these are unserious, insane people.
Yes,
that are a modern like snake oil salesman. That like they're honestly, I'm not trying to like, they're mentally ill.
Yeah.
These are mentally ill people who somehow have conned wealthy suburban white women into letting them into their home and pay them money to yell at them. Like it's sadomasochistic, but without like orgasming.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's so, I love it. I do. Like I'm glad people like this exist, because it does show a kind of like, look, this is where we're headed.
Yeah.
And it is show like it does show like, this is where we're gonna go. Is this what you want? And you can point to that. But like I thought it's Syra Rao, like R-A-O, and her partner is a black woman.
Yeah.
These are mentally ill people.
Yes.
Who should not be taken seriously. Yeah. But I am surprised. I'll listen to that episode. Sarah Hater she's like an ex-Muslim. Is that like a big thing about her? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know she's talks a lot about like Islam and shit.
Yeah, no, she's pretty great, and it's funny. So my understanding of Sarah Hater's politics, she seemed like at least sort of like center left, just kind of like an old school liberal. Like part of the reason why she's criticized radical Islam is because of its treatment of women and gays and things like that. So she seems like a genuine sort of classical liberal type. But when she was pushing back on Syra Rao's stupidity, Rao accused her. She's like, "Oh, I didn't know that you were a full on right winger, like that you were a hardline right winger." And she goes, "I am." Like, and then Megan Dom was like, "You're a right winger? I didn't know that." But yeah, and she didn't even state like any like actual political position. She didn't say, "Oh, I vote Republican and I voted for." It was just like, "Hey, color blindness is not a racist idea." And it's like, "Oh, I didn't know you're a conservative. I didn't know you're a Trump supporter." Like it was ridiculous.
Yeah, these are unserious people who should not be given. I mean, like they should. Yeah, it's redundant to say, but they shouldn't be taken seriously. Yeah, they should be looked at as a form of entertainment.
Yeah.
Kind of like in a pornographic type way.
Yeah.
Like they're there like in a not like an enjoyable pornographic, but like exploitative, kind of like snuff type way where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe that exists. Like it's kind of like a pinnacle of ideological depravity.
Yeah. That I feel like that would actually make a good
that's our
story or
that's our new band name, by the way. The pinnacle of ideological depravity.
I feel like that would actually make kind of like a good, like maybe not necessarily a horror movie, but like a thriller type movie where it's like there's like this underground cult of like wealthy people who get off on being lectured on their bigotry.
Yeah.
And like instead of having orgies, It's like
Mhm.
we're just gonna like invite Ibrahim Kendi and to our house. We'll give him anything he
Yeah.
wants. Just tell us how racist we are.
Yeah, Kendi should not be taken seriously either, and
Yeah,
he actually is, which is so insane to me. Like, remember when he told on himself, and it was like he showed the stat of all of the white students changing their race for college applications.
Oh, that's
Like,
right.
it's like, yeah, this completely disproves your point.
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously like this shows that it's better to be a racial minority in this context, and like by you saying that people are like, and he just deleted the tweet.
Yeah, I remember that. That was funny. And then
Yeah.
there was another incident, almost along those lines, where he rails against capitalism and everything, but then he'll charge like 20 grand for like a 1 hour lecture.
Yeah.
It's like some small school to give a talk.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, no, he's a grifter. He's a snake oil salesman. I love it. I
yeah,
love fraudsters. It's one of my favorite categories of
yeah,
like culture. As
yeah,
long as I'm not the one getting screwed or
right,
people I care about, I think they're just the best.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am glad that like they're going they're smart enough to target rich people. They're not like if they were defrauding like poor people, like working class people, I'd be much more
Yeah,
incensed about it. But it's like,
yeah, they could be. I mean, yeah, that's more of like the televangelist kind of angle of
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, they do seem to go after universities and like rich, like bleeding heart liberals,
yeah,
which I'm like,
yeah,
bilk them for all you want.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
care.
yeah,
Um, I would love if we got to the point where I don't care about like the individuals, like when schools and corporations stuff, if they like stopped,
yeah,
like they just like stopped paying them
yeah.
because and like had a backbone to this shit. Like I truly don't understand, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Like, why not just say no? Like,
Yeah.
what could happen? And I think it's honestly a domino effect of, well, if I say no, but all of my colleagues say yes, and then I look like the bad one, and I'm forced out, and I'm forced to resign or whatever. Like, okay, so then I turn to the next person. Why
Yeah.
not just say no?
Yeah.
Like, why not, like the Hamline University thing? Like you see it countless times on colleges. This professor needs to be fired. No, we
Yeah.
can't learn about this topic. No, the professor says no. The dean says no. The president says no. The what's it called? The department says
Yeah.
no.
Right.
Like, no, we've decided. Like, this isn't on a whim. Like, we decide our curriculum. We decide what we talk about. We decide what's acceptable.
Yeah.
Not you. You're the student.
Right.
You want to go protest, then you can protest where you're allowed to protest.
Yep.
Right? You have that right. You want to go on a hunger strike, you want to protest, but your paper's due in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you better do it. And this is the topic, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
like that's what I would do if I was a professor. Then again, I would never just be a professor because I'd probably get fired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen this happen numerous times. Like whenever somebody says no to the mob, they experience a few days of backlash, and then like they realize that the mob realizes that they have no power over them, so they like then the controversy dies down. So it's like, no, just endure the flames of controversy for a few days, and you'll go right back to
It's
business
not
as
even that
normal.
fucking bad. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we have to sit and talk about. Like, no, we fucking don't. I'm a president of a university. I
Yeah.
have more important things to do.
Yeah.
Like, if this was a real issue, if this was an emergency, if this was a real problem, like these are just contrived grievances that you have because you're an undergrad and nothing better to do with your life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, no, I don't have to take your call. I don't have to listen to you. And if you want to protest, fine. If you do anything illegal, if you stop someone from speaking at the school, you will be, we have our code of conduct. If you're going to storm the library and not let students speak or study, you're going to be removed. You're going to be taken out. You're going to be, whatever the guidelines are from the school, you're going to shut down a faculty building. Like, okay, then you're expelled.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
that's it. Done.
Yeah.
Like that. Like, I don't understand why that's so hard. There's a line out the door of students who would kill to have your spot.
Right.
At these
and if you think that your professor's grading system is racist, drop the class.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
but
I truly don't. Same with the CEOs, all these, and some do. Like, some have said, like the Netflix Sandalos or what was his name?
Right. Yeah.
Like he said about the mob about Chappelle, and he said no, right? And he did he stick to his guns?
As far as I know, yeah.
And everything's fine.
Yeah.
Like no one started murdering trans people because of Dave Chappelle's stand-up. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
if anything, he got attacked, like on stage by a
Right.
trans person. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
And maybe a handful of people quit Netflix, but it's like, again, like you said, it's like there are a bunch of people who would
there
love
will
to work
be-
at Netflix.
will
Like,
kill, and like, and to be honest, tech is shedding people.
Yeah.
Net like these services, like, okay, good luck getting a
Yeah.
job. Like,
Yeah.
and if you go somewhere else, they're probably not gonna put up with your bullshit either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, some people quit. Okay, they'll have a line, coming back in.
Yep. Yep. All right.
All
Well,
right then.
thanks,
That's
Tom
enough of
Hanks.
that.
Thanks, Hanks.
Yeah, good on Tom Hanks. I'm proud of
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. All right. Well, if that's it for this week.
All right, stay reckless.
Stay reckless.
Right, the crits.